get into it. As you know, almost nobody ever wins at Allen Fieldhouse other than Kansas. That place is arguably the greatest home court advantage in college basketball, evidence being that the Jayhawks have been a little shaky in different parts of the season, but still managed to win every single game that they played at home. They were 14-0 entering last night. Game 15 at home, it got a little trickier because Kevin McCullough was out again, and because BYU, which is ranked in the top 15 at KenPom, was in town. By now, you know what happened. Final score, BYU 76, Kansas 68. Inside Fog Allen. So Bill Self now has 18 losses at home in 21 seasons at Kansas. Deadleg, as you know, it's a show for us's, but we're not afraid to tip our hats to the Dems when they deserve it. Shouts to the Dems. You just snapped the Jayhawks 19-game home winning streak.
Yeah, I know. And we'll give them plenty of love. Trivia time. Who has the longest active home winning streak? I think you know this.
Who has the longest active home winning streak?
Also played on Tuesday night at home.
Oh, yeah, that's Grand Canyon.
No, it is Houston. 21
Oh,
games.
yeah, it's Houston.
So Kansas is done, but Houston has the longest there. KU had won 19 straight overall at home, and it had won 67 consecutive games against unranked teams at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. I think it was 32-1 in its previous 33 home games against Big 12 competition. So, yeah, for BYU to play at Kansas for the first time in that building in more than 50 years and walk in its first season of Big 12 residency and act like it's no big thing, man, oh, man, how about that? That is that's something, man. I was thinking about the banner that hangs in there, and I thought there was a motto, but I'm not going to say it on the show because it might be a little – it might be a little bit too inappropriate even for this. I'll text it to you on the side in a second, but pay heed all who went, except for those who, anyway, BYU, good job. 76-68. And no McCullough is a major thing. And we'll get to Kansas in a second. If you're watching live, the poll question today is where will Kansas' season end? Will it end in the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, or first weekend? So if you're watching, feel free to vote on the poll, and I'll share the results here in a little bit. The result to me, GP, is more about Kansas than BYU, but I'm going to give some love to the winning team. Dallin Hall hitting some big shots, couple big threes there, and doing so despite even having, some foul trouble amongst its starters there. I was really impressed by Mark Pope's team. This is a BYU crew that has rated well in metrics for the majority of the season, but had kind of, and understandably so, just had drifted back a little bit to like, okay, they're another good Big 12 kind of team. They're now back up to 15th at KenPom because as a result of this, they were still top 20 before this. They haven't fallen out of the top 20 period the entire season. But this is the kind of when, even against a shorthanded Kansas team, that I think lends more credence to the idea that BYU very well may be among your highest variance teams in the NCAA tournament. So if you're watching the show on this Wednesday morning, if you're listening, whenever you're listening, we obviously appreciate you in the car, on the run, however you're getting it done, shopping. But consider this with BYU, folks. They like to take threes at a rate that is among the most frequent in the sport. They're fourth highest in three-point rate. The only teams that shoot a higher percentage of their three-pointers in comparison to their entire shot arsenal is North Florida, not going to the tournament. Princeton, we'll see, and then Chattanooga. There's not really a high major team other than Creighton and maybe Villanova that builds so much of their offense around the idea that we're just going to launch and launch and launch. And what's interesting about BYU is that it only makes, I say only because this is okay, this isn't great, it makes 35% of its three-point shots. So Mark Pope is all in. They move the ball extremely well. Fusini Traore had himself a nice game, and he is a key cog in that. I thought that he was important there in addition to Dallin Hall, and I've raved about Ali Khalifa and his passing ability overall. It came up big for them on Tuesday night, because they wound up going 13 of 34 from three-point range in hostile territory. I can't remember, Parrish, if I said it on the show. I know I said it on HQ, but I thought that BYU was capable of getting a win in the building because of the way that it shoots, but I thought that it would need to get a little bit lucky here. I thought actually it was going to have to crack 40% from three. It technically did not. That 13 of 34 is a 38% clip, but it was enough. And Kansas did not shoot well from three whatsoever. 3 of 15. It's kind of resembling Creighton's win at home over UConn. Obviously, Kansas was at home here. So Kansas to me again is the side that I think this is more relevant to, but let's give some love to them and to the winning side. Good job by BYU. That is a speed line bump.
Yeah, I don't care who is on KU's team. You go into Allen Fieldhouse and win, you've accomplished something. There's no reason to try to discount what happened last night from BYU's perspective, but it is true that Kansas was missing its best player. And as we've talked about all season, they already have no depth. They have 5 reliable players on their team. Period.
Can
5
I just hit the pause button real quick? Because have you been on my side of this just recently? Because I was maybe the only person in the preseason who genuinely believed that Kevin McCullough Jr. would be Kansas's best player when everyone was saying Hunter Dickinson should be in the running for National Player of the Year in the preseason. Is this a new development on your end, GP?
Oh, I was not there in the preseason. You got there before I am, but I watch basketball,
Yeah.
and he's been their best player.
Especially because he is just super reliable on defense, and now not having him is a major issue. Yes.
And Hunter's the opposite of that on defense.
Yes.
I say that respectfully. He's a great college basketball player, but he is problematic on that end of the court. I think Kevin McCullough is Kansas's best player, and I would not have said that before this season started. What I also believe is that they only have 5 reliable players. Like I said this last night on CBS Sports Network, Inside College Basketball, and it got clipped and got retweeted. And some BYU fans are like, well, I think they recruit more than 5 players. Like, well, of course they do. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, I said what I said. They have 5 reliable players on their roster. That's what they have on the roster. However they got to this point is how they got to this point. But they have 5 reliable players on the roster, and one of them is hurt. All right. And he's the best one. So listen, Bill is so great, and those other pieces are so good that they're still going to be able to go get a Texas here or an Oklahoma there. They're not going to go from good to, bad, but they're going to go from good to, vulnerable, even inside their home arena. And if you saw Bill's comments last night after the game, he was like, I could see this coming. We had no energy at shoot around. We had, a lack of focus. And yes, we are. Bill didn't say this part, but I'll say it for him. And we're missing our best player, and we only have 5 reliable players anyway. By the way, Nick Timberlake got the start in place of Kevin McCullough, 1 of 9 from the field. I mean, that's it. Yeah. You take a first team All-American level guy out of your starting lineup and you throw in somebody who's going to give you 1 of 9. Well, that's how you lose at home to BYU.
I think his only basket was a dunk too, by the way. So,
and I'm shocked that he hasn't been better, because you look around and all of these mid-major guards, or a lot of them, are they're actually popping at the high major level. It's working. And Tristan Newton was a mid-major guard, and Mark Sears was a mid-major guard, and Dalton Connect was a mid-major wing, and they're popping. And the Timberlake thing just has it. And what's wild is it wasn't even in the preseason like we were going, well, who do you think is going to be better, or which one do you think can be good? Marco Jackson or Nick Timberlake. It was what? It never occurred to me that neither one of them would be hopeful. I thought one of them would be better than the other, and they'd both be good. And as it turns out, neither one of them are helpful. So, Bill sort of touched on some of this stuff last night, just like, hey, I could see this one coming. I couldn't see it coming because, like I said on CBS Sports Network, you tell me Bill Self's coaching in Allen Fieldhouse, I just assume he wins. Okay, GP, but you got to play point guard. All right, well, we'll still figure this out. We'll figure it out. I think he could win with just about anything in that building, but last night he got caught. It's his 18th loss at home now. According to KU, just to update the numbers, Bill entered this season with an official record at Allen Fieldhouse of 299-17. He's 14-1 now this season, so that's officially 313-18, 94.6%. 94.6%. Bill Self is more likely to win a home game against anybody than Steph Curry is to make a free throw. Think about that.
That's one hell of a nugget and really cool perspective. It's insane.
And he's doing it in what is typically the best league in the country. And once again, this season, 7 undefeated seasons at home in his previous 20 years at Kansas. But obviously, this is not going to be the 8th. And just I'll wrap with this, and you can do whatever you want to after that. But I also appreciated Mark Pope's comments after the game. I like it when when people can appreciate a moment, and he seemed to. Like, why, we're in this place. Like, look around. Like, this place is amazing, and like, look at that coach. He like actually said to win in this place against that coach is like, that's wild stuff. And so he gave proper credit to Allen Fieldhouse, proper credit to the greatness of Bill Self. And this is something we've been saying for a little while now. He's been fabulous at BYU. Like to re-energize that program and then have it transition into the Big 12 and be good. I moved him up to 19th in the top 25 and 1 this morning. That's a quality basketball team.
I would presume that the way the scheduling will go, I don't know if BYU and Kansas will play 2 times next season, but Kansas will have to play at the Marriott Center next season. And so, yeah, BYU will actually, if it can have a solid roster, and Kansas should obviously be Kansas, but it will have the rare chance of really being in an advantageous position potentially to hold a winning streak against KU. But we'll see how that goes. And yeah, for Pope to walk in, I say this, half serious, half joking. Savor this one, because if you told me that BYU lost its next 10 trips to Allen, okay, I would believe you. Like, it's not unreasonable. So like, if you're a BYU fan in particular, like, this is not normal. Don't get comfortable and cherish this one, because hell, maybe you win the next time out. But if you're going to share a conference with this school for the next 20 years, and who the hell knows if even that's going to happen, you might not never win again.
How about this? I wonder. I'd love to get a math-minded person to tell me how to play this one. If somebody said you could bet $1,000 on Kansas going 10-0 at home in its next 10 games against every Big 12 opponent, how would it work out for you?
Ooh, yeah. Someone do the math.
Like Houston might cause you problems.
Yeah.
But how many people are going to cause you problems?
Or against your average Big 12 opponent, kind of, do the equation that way. That would be
we might need to not do 10 because of Bill's age, but maybe like 5. We could be or 3. I just think there's a scenario.
3. I mean, 10
let's do it 1. Let's do 1.
1.
How about this? To go in there and win under any circumstances is amazing, because Bill Self's been there for 21 years and almost nobody has ever gone in there and won. It is so infrequent.
Yeah.
That it's actually difficult to believe. And BYU did that last night. Seriously, congrats. That's amazing.
We can move on. We'll break. I just do want to say one quick thing here. We've mentioned on the pod before, if you're a fan of Kansas and you're a fan of UConn, you're aware of this, but just like one small thing is that UConn was, I think, of an understanding and an expectation that it was probably going to land Nick Timberlake. Nick Timberlake wound up going to Kansas, and because of that, UConn got Cam Spencer. And there are other elements at play, but one team is in the mix for a 1 seed and the number 1 overall seed and has a real chance to win a national championship. And to me, Kansas, particularly when Self reiterated last night that he doesn't know if they're getting McCullough back, period. Kansas is not on that tier. It's not in that conversation. Again, there are other factors in play, but it is interesting how a fairly well-tracked recruitment of a transfer player like Timberlake was seen as like a top 20 guy in the portal last season, and how it's just kind of gone unexpectedly. Keep that in mind, fans, 6 to 8 to 10 weeks from now, when there are certain names that pop in the portal that you've got expectations on. That's fine, but just remember, nothing is guaranteed, and we have these surprises and expectations and twists of plot every single season.